So this is what the hot seat feels like.
Are you sweating yet?
I don't know. The lights are pretty warm in here.
All right, we don't have a lot of time, so we'll skip the intro. Go right into the tough questions. All right, what do we got here? All right, Adam, you said Jesse Benton cheated on his girlfriend at the time with his current wife and Ron Paul's granddaughter. After you did this, was there any regret? Did you feel like you took it too far?
No. And there are certain things about Jesse Benton's personal life that I have not revealed that I could use if all I wanted to do was, make him look bad. But there are certain elements of his past that are relevant to what he's doing now, his relationship with Ron Paul, and thus the movement as a whole. And for those things, in terms of the significance of the relationship with his wife, I needed to reveal certain things that in other circumstances would be questionable, if not inappropriate. So I can understand the charge. But given the implications of those things that I revealed and what they say about Jesse Benton, I feel that I had to, and it was appropriate in calling him out.
Where do you get this information from, Adam? By the way, it's Tracy Diaz. Hello.
Hi. Well, for that in particular, it was from someone who wishes to remain anonymous, who was on the campaign in 2007 and 2008.
All right.
And I mean, I have other sources. Obviously, one of them came forward with really everything she had to say. I shouldn't say everything she had to say, but for those of you who haven't seen it, my interview with Penny Freeman from last Friday has been making the rounds about the various betrayals of Ron Paul, and I have similar sources, but she's been very helpful in me developing my understanding of what's been going on with the campaign and the relationship with Jesse Benton and the family.
Did she fear any repercussions from that? I mean, was she a little bit like scared to come forward and do that on your show?
Well, I don't want to speak on her behalf, but there was definitely it definitely wasn't a light decision for her. It was something that she took very seriously and gave a lot of consideration to. And I think, as with many of us, with the problems that we've seen with Jesse Benton especially, but with others in the campaign, with John Tate, with not so much with Doug Weed, but with Nick Spanos working the phone banks, there have been a lot of things that people have sat on, that people have not really revealed because they were afraid that it would hurt Ron's chances or would make Ron look bad. And a lot of people are regretting that now, about not being more open about it, but this was part of the environment that Benton created. And you can ask Tom about that when he comes on next, about how he got thrown under the Ron Paul bus and what comments led to that from him, which were on his blog, very respectful but constructively critical comments about how the campaign was being run and about Jesse Benton. And next thing you know, he went from being the prime speaker at the Campaign for Liberty regional conferences to completely cut off.
All right. You've been pretty, I guess, tough on Rand for his endorsement of Romney, right?
Well, I wouldn't say, honestly, I really haven't been that tough on Rand himself because I don't think it's that big a deal, and it's not a surprise that Rand endorsed Romney. It's offensive, as it is when anybody endorses Romney, and there is a different element of a certain betrayal of the movement, but really I can't even call it a betrayal on Rand's part because he's always been upfront about this. People can feel duped when he sort of played along and made people think that he was just like his father, but he's always been different. He's been pretty clear about from the beginning that he's not a libertarian, he's a conservative. There's nothing in and of itself wrong with that. So that he endorsed Romney, it's offensive, but I don't really, I can't really, fault Rand for that because he's not committed to the same principles that we as libertarians are.
So would you say he then didn't compromise because he's always been straightforward?
I think he's always been a compromiser. He's always been a statist, and that's the fundamental difference between him and his father. And it doesn't matter how small a government you're advocating for, if you're not consistent in your principles and moving towards a stateless society, a truly free, voluntary society, as his father is, then you're already a compromiser. You're already willing to say, for some form of utilitarianism, well, a little bit of violence by the government here or there is okay. And, Rand voted for sanctions against Iran. That's an act of war, and in this case, an unprovoked one. So and I don't think it's a compromise. It's just part of his MO. It's what he does. It's part of being a statist. It's part of being a utilitarian. You could say it's a compromise because Rand is still distinctly different from Mitt Romney. So in that sense, yeah, it's kind of a big move, a big compromise, a big sellout. But if it's really compromising his principles, I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far because it's hard to say. I don't really share Rand's principles.
But what about the argument, though, that he's compromising so that in the long run it helps the liberty movement? And I ask this because some would say that you compromise by having a show on a state-run network. So
sure.
your argument to that is, well, yeah, it was a state-run network, but I was spreading the message of liberty. Can't that same argument be applied to what Rand's doing?
Well, it's kind of laughable in that when you put it that way, because Rand isn't spreading the message of liberty. He doesn't speak from the philosophy as his father does. Never has, and I don't think ever will. I mean, I'd be welcoming him with open arms if he decided to change his tune. But taking money, accepting money from government, accepting benefits, in an industry that is completely overrun by government intervention. Nobody leveled the charge at Judge Napolitano for taking a job with Fox, which is owned by an Aussie and a Saudi, who are obviously very pro-government and in bed with so many corrupt politicians. So if anything, doing it up front, saying that, yes, this is the Russian propaganda machine, and at this point our interests intersect, I don't think that's a compromise. I drive on government roads, and if you want to say that that's a compromise of libertarian principles, then so is taking a show at RT. And if you want to take that stance and you want to live by those principles, I have the utmost respect for you. And if you want to call me a pragmatist compromiser for being in that category of libertarians that actually use government roads, then I am guilty as charged.
So government roads and RT news, my thought here is that just interesting to watch how RT has changed their tune as all this stuff has come out, kind of like they're working in tandem with
Hold on, I can barely hear you. It sounds like you're very far away from the mic. I'm getting a big echo.
Yeah, I got complaints because I was too loud. So what I'm saying is it's pretty interesting that RT has changed their tune as far as the way they're kind of embracing or not embracing Ron Paul as a shot on the convention floor any longer, almost like they're working in tandem with the government to put out what people want to, or what people don't necessarily want to see, but they want them to hear. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, it's sponsored by the Russian government. These are the people that are trying to start a humanitarian war in Syria so that both the superpowers can go at it and further exploit the citizens of the United States and Russia for the benefits of their governments. I'm not surprised at all. I haven't been following RT that closely, but I understand, why they would support someone like me, but I did kind of figure that it was only a matter of time before someone in the Russian government figured out what anarcho-capitalism was and was like, yeah, you can't be airing this stuff. So, I can't speculate a whole lot further as to the intentions of the Russian government with their particular propaganda tool that they have with RT, but it does make sense given those broader incentives of government.
Adam, occasionally you'll get high on your show. Some people in the movement, that offends them. They don't like it. They say that when you're trying to spread the message of liberty and somebody happens to see your show, maybe they would have been more open to it, but then they're like, oh my God, you're high. What do you say to people that make that argument?
They don't have to watch my show. That's fine. I'm spreading the message to people who aren't bothered by certain drug use. Most people define what drug use they're bothered by based on what the government says is okay. If I was taking shots of Jack on my show, they wouldn't say anything. You know, these aren't people that complain about people that drink on you know, in public or anything like that. But if it's marijuana, then it's going to look bad. But you know what? There was a study just released by the CDC that shows there are more teens today who smoke marijuana than cigarettes. And alcohol use is on the decline, marijuana use is on the rise, because Americans' youth are realizing that marijuana is a freedom-inducing substance. Not only does it make you realize that the government is full of crap, but that the drugs that are approved by the government aren't good for you. Surprise, surprise. And that marijuana is really a very healthy alternative to alcohol as a recreational and social drug of choice. And I think that people are starting to realize that, and really the future is not with alcohol in terms of what is going to be the primary social drug in America. It's going to be marijuana.
All right, let's just apply that same theory of what you do on your show sometimes might turn people off with the whole cursing thing. You're about to go to Massachusetts, I think, right, and protest their newest law.
Because being offended is fucking bullshit. And I think the idea of taking offense to words, of pretending that you're having an emotional reaction to things that people are saying, is a way of emotionally manipulating people into controlling their language. And that's bullshit. And I think people who believe in liberty understand that and are able to get past that. And people who still watch Adam versus the Man, despite my cussing, are grown-ups and not children who feel that they need to be sheltered from dirty words. But yes, we're hosting a free fucking speech demonstration in Middleborough, Massachusetts, where they've decided to make it a citable offense for a $20 fine to use foul language in public. So we are going to be challenging that. And in terms of, you know, spreading the message, there are times when you want to have as broad an appeal as possible, and there are times you want to use the full, colorful range of language afforded by English. And I usually choose to do that, having been in the Marines and learned how to cuss like a sailor. I take full advantage of the words that are available to me in expressing myself. And I think that's more important than giving into the emotional bullshit of people that say, ooh, that's offensive, I can't listen to you.
All right, last question because we're running over and Tom's coming up. Who would you like to see step up and take a leading role of the liberty movement after Ron Paul retires? Are you interested in filling that role?
Am I interested in filling that? I mean, to what extent I can serve the message by being an effective deliverer of it, by my own merit, I'm always doing my best to, I would never call it provide leadership, but provide value in media production. And if I can do that, to whatever extent that I can, I'd be deeply honored. Judge Napolitano was great. I wish that he had a venue that was more full-time, like, when he had his own show, rather than what he's doing now as a commentator. I wish he would go my route. He's got a much larger fan base and would probably be much more successful. And at least with Middle America, he's got a broader appeal than I do. So I'd really like to see him step up in his own media production and break away from Fox entirely. But that's kind of a media-oriented perspective. In terms of politics, if you want to say that that's leadership in the movement, although we're not really a political movement as much as I think we are an anti-political movement, I had great hopes for Justin Amash until recently. Seeing his vote on Israel foreign aid was really disappointing. But there are a lot of other people that can step up. There are plenty of people, but more importantly, this movement is about you. This movement is about everybody who believes in this message stepping up and being a leader for themselves. And how that's manifest in the broader political scene, in the broader media scene, in the broader American dialogue isn't nearly as important as people who believe in this message, fully embracing it, living by it, spreading it to those around them however they can. I would be honored if you choose to use my videos or podcasts to help spread the message, but really it's not important. That's just a mechanism. It's about stepping up and being a leader for yourself, as it always has been. It's the only way this movement will succeed, and it's the way that it will succeed because we are a leaderless resistance. We are a movement full of people capable of leading, stepping up, and making decisions for themselves.
You're gonna have to get going in 1 second, Adam. But I seem to remember a couple, like maybe a month ago, when we did the "Get It Off Your Chest" and "Tell Me What's Next." You saying you had some kind of presidential aspirations. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. It was a very long evening.
Yes, I don't know if you want to call them aspirations, but I've been kind of toying with the idea of starting a campaign this November for me to run for president in 2020 on the platform of dissolving the federal government entirely. But it will be an ideas-driven campaign. It will be serious enough that should we, by 2020, develop consensus nationally that we would be better off as a nation without the federal government, I will be ready to step up and have a full plan to execute. But it's not about me, and if someone else wanted to take up that platform or be a more effective messenger for it, as I would have to say as part of this, I would be eager to drop out and endorse someone else. But I really think that is a central idea, the way that the Ron Paul presidency, a constitutionalist presidency, united people and gave people a way to reach out. I think creating a campaign around the idea of dissolving the federal government entirely in a peaceful, orderly manner is something that would be an incredible tool for liberty activists to be able to reach out to fellow Americans and to start talking about the message and waking people up to the reality of the nature of government. So I'm still toying with that one. We'll see if anything ever comes of it. But it's certainly a significant task that we'd have to complete first to come up with a plausible plan for dissolving the federal government. And obviously it can be done, but we have to have a proposal for how. And if people want to get behind that plan and that platform and help develop it, I'd be happy to put my face on it for a while if I have to and shepherd the idea and be an advocate for it. But for me, it's just part of the broader journey that I'm on and the mission that I've made for myself of doing everything that I can to spread the message.
Adam, thanks for coming on. If anybody wants to check out Adam, it's adamversustheman.com. Thank you very much, Adam.
My pleasure. Great hot seat questions.